Most people never realize they are trapped until years have already disappeared. They wake up early, rush to work, pay bills, come home exhausted, and repeat the same cycle again tomorrow. Month after month, year after year. And the scariest part is not being broke, it's believing this is normal. Stage one of getting rich in 2026 begins here, financial survival. This is the stage where money controls you. Your paycheck arrives, and before you can even breathe, it's gone. Rent, groceries, debt payments, fuel, school fees, unexpected emergencies. You're not building wealth, you're simply trying to survive. And survival mode is dangerous because it keeps your mind focused only on today, while rich people are building for 10 years from now. Listen carefully. This stage is not about intelligence. It's not about working harder. Millions of hardworking people are stuck here because the real enemy is financial blindness. If you do not know where your money is going, you will never know why it keeps leaving. That changes now. The first breakthrough is awareness. You must face your numbers with honesty, even if it hurts. Every dollar earned, every dollar spent, every subscription, every late-night impulse purchase, every debt. Because what you refuse to measure will quietly destroy you. This can feel uncomfortable, even painful. But pain is powerful when it wakes you up. In 2026, technology, inflation, and rising living costs are punishing people who ignore their finances. Prices move up, but many incomes don't. Which means if you continue living unconsciously, you fall behind faster than ever before. And then comes the silent killer, bad debt, credit cards, consumer loans, buy now, pay later traps. Debt is sold like convenience, but often becomes financial slavery. Every payment you make toward high-interest debt is money that could have built your future. This is why stage one requires a bold decision. Stop financing appearances. Stop spending money to look rich while staying broke. Because true wealth does not begin with flashy purchases, it begins with control. Control over your habits, control over your emotions, control over your financial choices. And yes, this may mean saying no. No to unnecessary upgrades. No to status pressure. No to the dangerous habit of lifestyle inflation, where every raise becomes an excuse to spend more instead of build more. Now here's where power starts returning to you, your emergency fund. This is your first shield, your first taste of freedom. Even saving a month of expenses creates breathing room. 3 to 6 months creates stability. Suddenly, one crisis no longer destroys your life, and that changes your confidence. Because survival is exhausting, but stability creates hope. This first stage is not glamorous. It may feel slow. It may require sacrifice. But never underestimate this chapter, because every wealthy person who built lasting success first learned how to stop drowning. Before wealth comes control. Before abundance comes discipline. Before riches comes survival. And once you escape survival mode, for the first time, you stop living paycheck to paycheck and start building a future. Escaping financial survival is powerful. But this is where many people make a dangerous mistake. They breathe a little easier. Their bills are paid, maybe they even save a small amount, and they believe they've made it. But stability is not wealth. Stability is the foundation, not the finish line. Stage 2 is financial stability. The stage where you stop merely surviving and begin building strength. This is where your life starts to change in ways people can actually feel. The panic begins to fade. The constant anxiety over every unexpected expense slowly quiets down. And for the first time, money becomes something you manage instead of something that controls you. But do not get comfortable here, because financial stability can either become the launchpad to wealth or the prison of mediocrity. At this stage, your mission is simple. Create consistency, not occasional discipline. Not random savings. Consistency. This means reliable income, predictable habits, and a system that works even when motivation disappears. You cannot build wealth on chaos. You need structure. A budget is no longer a punishment. It becomes your strategy. Every dollar now has a purpose. Some money covers living. Some money protects you. Some money grows you. Instead of wondering where your paycheck went, you tell it where to go. That shift is powerful. And then comes one of the greatest wealth accelerators in modern history, increasing your earning power. Here is a truth too many people ignore. You can only cut expenses so far, but your income potential can expand for decades. This is why financially stable people in 2026 must think beyond just saving money. They must focus on becoming more valuable, more skills, more knowledge, more adaptability. The economy is changing fast. Automation is replacing average work. Artificial intelligence is disrupting industries. Traditional career paths are shifting. The people who thrive will not be the ones who simply work hard, They will be the ones who evolve. This may mean learning digital skills, sales, marketing, leadership, investing, or building side hustles that create additional income streams. A side hustle is no longer just extra cash. For many, it is the bridge to freedom. And while your income grows, your discipline must grow faster, because one of the biggest traps in stage 2 is looking richer instead of becoming richer. A better salary can become a bigger house, a nicer car, and more expensive distractions. Or it can become assets, investments, and opportunity. The choice determines everything. This is also where credit becomes a tool, not a trap. Strong credit can lower costs, create leverage, and open doors. Bad credit quietly drains wealth through higher interest, fewer opportunities, and constant financial pressure. Financial stability means protecting your reputation with money. You are building trust with lenders, with opportunities, and most importantly, with yourself. And perhaps the greatest transformation in this stage is emotional, because stability changes how you think. You stop making desperate decisions. You stop fearing every bill. You stop accepting survival as your identity. You begin thinking bigger, longer term, smarter. This stage is where confidence is born, not arrogance, confidence. The confidence that comes from knowing you can handle life instead of constantly being crushed by it. Remember, this stability is not about having more money than others. It's about having enough control that your life is no longer one emergency away from collapse. This is where discipline becomes power. This is where habits become wealth seeds. This is where you stop asking, how do I get through this month? And start asking, how do I build the next 5 years? This is where everything changes. Stage 3 is the moment you stop trading time for money and start making money work for you. Read that again, because this is the stage where ordinary people begin separating themselves from the crowd. Up until now, your income has mostly depended on your effort, your hours, your labor, your presence. If you stop working, the money slows down or stops. That is not wealth. That is earned income. And while earned income can create stability, true wealth begins when your money starts producing more money, even while you sleep. This is wealth building. This is where the game shifts from survival to strategy. And yes, this stage can feel intimidating, because now it's not just about budgeting better, it's about thinking differently. You must stop seeing money only as something to spend and start seeing it as a worker. Every dollar you keep has potential. It can be consumed or deployed. Poor financial habits consume money. Wealthy habits deploy it. This is why investors, business owners, and asset builders often rise faster than employees alone. They understand one life-changing principle: money invested wisely can multiply faster than money earned manually. Now, let's be clear. This is not gambling. This is not chasing flashy trends or overnight success. This is calculated wealth creation. Stocks, real estate, businesses, index funds, dividend assets, digital assets with caution and education. The exact vehicle may differ, but the mission remains the same. Acquire assets that grow, because assets put money into your pocket. Liabilities quietly take it away. And here is where compound growth becomes your superpower. At first, growth feels slow, almost invisible. You invest, save, reinvest, and wonder if it's even working. But then something remarkable happens. Your money starts earning returns. Then those returns start earning returns. And over time, what once looked small begins accelerating. This is why the wealthy are often patient. They understand that compounding rewards consistency, not impatience. In 2026, this stage is more important than ever because inflation punishes idle cash. If your money simply sits, it often loses value. But when strategically invested, it has the chance to outpace inflation and create expansion. This is also the stage where multiple income streams become critical. One paycheck is vulnerable, one business is risky, one stream can dry up. But multiple streams create resilience. Imagine employment income, plus dividends, plus rental income, plus a side business, plus royalties or scalable digital products. Now, you are no longer depending on one source for survival. You are building an ecosystem, and ecosystems are powerful. But here comes the emotional challenge. Fear. Fear of losing money, fear of making mistakes, fear of risk. And yes, risk is real. But understand this clearly. Avoiding all risk is often the riskiest move of all, because doing nothing can cost you years of growth. The key is not reckless risk. The key is educated risk. Study before investing. Learn before scaling. Understand before committing. Wealth builders do not blindly leap. They strategically move. This stage also demands a shift in identity. You are no longer just a worker. You are becoming an owner, an allocator, a builder. And builders think differently. They ask, how can this money multiply? What asset can generate cash flow? What system can create growth without constant labor? This mindset alone can transform generations. Because stage 3 is where financial momentum becomes real. You stop living only on active effort and begin creating passive acceleration. This is where sacrifice begins turning into expansion. This is where strategy begins replacing struggle. This is where your money stops being paycheck and starts becoming your army. This is the stage most people dream about, but few truly reach. Financial freedom, not fantasy. Not flashy social media wealth. Not pretending to be rich while drowning in payments. Real freedom. The moment when your assets, your systems, your investments produce enough income to cover your life without requiring your constant presence. Pause and really feel that. Your bills are paid, whether you clock in or not. Your family's protected, whether you take a vacation or not. Your time finally becomes your own. This is stage 4, where wealth stops being about accumulation alone and starts becoming liberation. For years, you worked to survive. Then you worked to stabilize. Then you built. Now, your money carries more of the burden than you do, and that changes everything. Because the highest form of wealth is not just money, it is control over your time. Time to choose, time to create, time to be present, time to say no, time to walk away from what no longer aligns with your life. This is why financial freedom is so powerful. Because when you no longer depend entirely on active income, fear loses its grip. The fear of losing a job, the fear of a toxic boss, the fear of missing one paycheck, the fear of being trapped. Freedom is not about never working again. It's about never being forced. And here is where many people misunderstand wealth. They think freedom comes from earning more. But often, freedom comes from owning better, owning cash-flowing assets, owning equity, owning systems that scale, owning businesses that function beyond your daily labor, owning investments designed for income, not just appreciation. This could mean rental properties, dividend portfolios, automated businesses, licensing, partnerships, or strategic ownership in scalable ventures. The exact path may vary, but the principle is universal. Freedom requires systems bigger than your personal effort. And once those systems mature, life expands. But listen carefully. Stage 4 is not where discipline disappears. In fact, wealth without protection can collapse faster than poverty. This is why financial freedom also demands protection. Tax strategy, asset protection, legal structure, insurance, estate preparation. Because making money is one skill, keeping money is another. And keeping wealth often requires more wisdom than earning it. Too many people rise financially, only to lose everything through poor planning, lawsuits, taxes, overconfidence, or lifestyle excess. This is why freedom must be defended. And emotionally, this stage can be surprisingly complex, because once survival pressure disappears, a deeper question emerges. What now? Who are you when you no longer have to chase? For some, this is where purpose is reborn. They mentor, they build passion projects, they travel, they innovate, they spend meaningful time with family. They create impact. Because true financial freedom is not about escaping life, it's about designing it. And perhaps the greatest hidden power of this stage is options. Options are priceless. When you have financial freedom, you can make decisions based on vision, not desperation. You can choose opportunities based on alignment, not necessity. You can think long-term, because urgency no longer controls every move. This stage is rare because it requires patience, sacrifice, and strategic intelligence. But it is possible. And once you reach it, success is no longer measured only by income, but by independence. This is where wealth becomes peace. This is where assets become freedom. This is where money stops being the goal and starts becoming the tool that gave you your life back. And now, we arrive at the final stage. The stage almost everyone admires, but very few truly understand: legacy wealth. This is beyond personal success, beyond financial freedom, beyond having enough money for your own life. Legacy wealth is when your wealth outlives you, when what you build continues creating opportunity, impact, and power for generations. This is where you stop asking, how can I become rich? And start asking, how can what I build continue changing lives long after I'm gone? That question changes everything. Because stage 5 is no longer about lifestyle. It is about permanence. At this level, wealth becomes infrastructure. You are not just earning, not just investing, not just owning. You are engineering systems, institutions, and assets that can survive decades, even centuries. Family offices, major businesses, private equity, large-scale real estate, intellectual property, trusts, strategic portfolios, philanthropic foundations. At this stage, wealth becomes architecture. And architecture requires vision. This is why generational wealth is so rare. Making money can change one life. But building wealth that survives multiple generations requires education, governance, discipline, and values. Without those, wealth often disappears by the third generation. One generation builds, the next enjoys, the third destroys. Why? Because inheritance without wisdom can become a curse. This is why true legacy builders do not only transfer money, they transfer knowledge, financial literacy, responsibility, standards, vision. Because the greatest inheritance is not cash alone, it is capability. This means teaching your children, your family, your successors, how money works, how assets grow, how mistakes destroy, and how purpose guides wealth. Legacy is not created by accidental abundance. It is created by intentional design. And this is also where influence expands. Because when wealth reaches this level, your decisions can shape industries, communities, education, healthcare, innovation, even culture. You may fund scholarships, launch transformative companies, support causes that outlive your own name, create jobs, build institutions, solve problems at scale. This is where money becomes a force multiplier for human impact. But there is also danger here, ego. Power without humility can destroy legacy faster than poverty ever could. History is full of wealthy empires that collapsed, not because of lack of money, but because of arrogance, mismanagement, entitlement, and disconnection from purpose. This is why Stage 5 demands stewardship, not ownership alone, stewardship. You begin seeing wealth not merely as something you possess, but as something you are responsible for protecting, growing, and directing wisely. And emotionally, this stage can become the most meaningful of all, because eventually, luxury loses its thrill, status fades, material things become normal. But significance becomes priceless. Knowing your life created opportunity for people you may never even meet, that is a different kind of richness. That is legacy. So here we are. The truth, the mirror, the question that changes everything. Which stage are you in right now? Not where you wish you were, not where you pretend to be. Where are you truly? Because your current stage is not your final destination. It is simply your starting point. Identify it, own it, master it, then rise. Because the future does not belong to those who drift. It belongs to those who deliberately climb.